Okay, hi everyone, welcome back. And in this update, we are going to check out QNT's chart and see what is happening in the short term. And a spoiler alert, I'm actually starting to see some very bullish signs. But before we get into all that, we are going to talk about this very important tweet because, ladies and gentlemen, this is literally that moment that we have all been waiting for. So, in case that you missed it, you should know that Quant just dropped some big news with the launch of QuantNet, and this one is actually very important for both the network and also the QNT token itself. And we are going to, in today's update, break it down one by one and see what are the potential effects. So are you ready? Let's dive in and see what is going on. And I think the first question has to be, okay, what is QuantNet? You see, QuantNet is a production-ready platform that banks and financial institutions can use literally right now. And the key here is that it actually lets them move into tokenized money and digital assets without ripping out their old infrastructure. And that seamless connection between the old system and the new one is a huge step towards real adoption. Second, the market that they are targeting, it's very important to note that it's not a small by any means. We are talking about the multi-trillion-dollar tokenization market that is growing seriously fast, and Quant is positioning itself right in the middle of that shift by providing the core infrastructure. Third, you see, this isn't actually happening in isolation. You should know that Quant already has credibility with major partners, and for instance, for those of you who are new viewers, you should know that QNT has worked already with the European Central Bank, Oracle, and they are also part of the UK's tokenized sterling project with names like HSBC and many others that at the moment I really cannot remember. These are real institutions looking at Quant's technology and what it actually has to offer. And finally, last but not least, the real magic of QuantNet is what? Well, I think you all know it. It is called interoperability. You see, the digital asset space is at the moment quite fragmented and absolutely messy. But QuantNet, okay, it can act as a unifying layer connecting different networks. So with that, liquidity is going to move very much smoothly, and that's actually the kind of backbone the industry has been waiting for years and years, and well, it is finally here. Now, let's talk about what this launch actually means both right now and also in the future. And I think we should actually start by talking about the effects in the potential short term. You see, just by looking at the price chart, well, I think you should understand that QuantNet has already had a visible impact. Just look at the markets in case that you haven't. After the announcement, QNT actually jumped around, I think it was like 7 or 8%, and that kind of move shows that investors are indeed paying attention and there is real confidence building around this launch. And for example, even if you have doubts, check out, let's say, the last couple of days, maybe the last 10 days. In a lot of other altcoins, in this period, we actually went down a bit. However, in Quant, not only we didn't get a move down, which by the way, I expected it initially, but also we got a decent bounce from the lowest low. And I think so far it has been about like a 20-25% bounce. So this, I think, can be a bit of a signal suggesting that investors are indeed seeing QuantNet as something with real substance. But the more interesting part, in my view at least, is the long-term effects. You see, this actually has a couple of aspects, and I think first things first, we have to talk about adoption, because every single time a bank or financial institution joins QuantNet, it is going to increase demand for the QNT token itself. Why? Simple reason, because you should probably know this. QNT isn't just a passive investment. No, it is actually built into the system already, and institutions need QNT token for licensing to access the platform and also to pay for services. And that means more usage is going to directly translate into more demand for the token itself. And by the way, it's very important to note that QNT maximum supply is around, I think, 14.8 million tokens, something like that. And it is absolutely capped, okay? The supply is just simply not going to increase. So if you have capped supply and at the same time increasing demand, hopefully, okay, what are you going to have? Well, ultimately, I'm gonna say probably big price appreciation for the token. Then, second effect, you got network effects. You see, with every single bank that joins, the value of the whole network is going to grow for everybody already in it. This is basically the same principle that made the internet so powerful, meaning the more users you got, the more useful the network is going to become. And once that flywheel starts spinning, I promise you that growth is going to move a whole lot faster than a lot of people expect already. Next, QuantNet's programmable design actually opens the door to new types of financial services. Think about, for example, automated trade settlements, maybe programmable payroll system, maybe even to a degree brand new digital asset classes. These are products that simply cannot exist on traditional rails, and QuantNet makes them absolutely possible. And finally, last but not least, there is the bigger picture in here, and by that I am talking about mainstream validation. Because if major financial institutions start running real-world use cases on QuantNet, it's not just simply going to boost Quant. No, at the same time, it is going to very much also strengthen the entire case for blockchain and crypto in traditional finance, and that kind of credibility is very much priceless for the whole industry. Now, for the last part, let's just break it down a bit more and talk about specifically QNT's tokenomic in this situation. First, we have to talk about demand and utility. You see, you should note that the token we are talking about, QNT, it's actually the engine of QuantNet. Every single license, every single transaction, and every single interaction on the network will require QNT token, and that built-in demand is actually what ties the real-world adoption of QuantNet directly to the value of the token itself. Second, we have to talk about the deflationary design. You see, this is actually where things get quite interesting, and we talked about it a little bit earlier. To access the network, developers and enterprises have to purchase license using QNT token, and those tokens are actually locked up for a full 12 months and with a maximum supply of just over, let's say, 14.6, 14.7 million token. That is going to be very much tiny compared to most other projects. So as more institutions actually on board, the circulating supply is going to get tighter and tighter by the minute. And that, well, guess what? It is going to naturally apply upward pressure on the price. Now, the third aspect in here actually comes down to value accrual. You see, the success of QuantNet doesn't just make the network more and more valuable. No, it also flows straight into the QNT token itself, and the token is indeed the key to accessing the system like we talked about it earlier. And as the volume of transactions grows, well, okay, the demand for QNT is going to grow right alongside it. And this, my friends, is a very clean and direct feedback loop for you. So putting it all together, in my view, the launch of QuantNet is actually feeling like a pivotal moment for Quant. And in my opinion, this is truly the culmination of years of building and partnerships rolled into a platform that could potentially and hopefully become core infrastructure for the future of finance, and with real world utility, a massive market opportunity, and also tokenomics that are very much designed to reward adoption. Well, okay, in my view, this is going to be a very bullish setup for the long-term growth. And that, my friends, is the main reason for why I am so bullish on QNT. Because sure, in the last couple of months, the price hasn't really done a whole lot. And in fact, we have seen a decent downtrend. But as long as you believe in the fundamentals, I think you are still going to come to the conclusion that, you know what, I am still in the right place. And maybe for those of you who have bought QNT around the highs, let's say around $150, maybe this is the time to DCA a little bit. And if we end up going down once more, well, okay, that just can be better opportunity for all of us. So Fundamentals wise, I think we just had the best news that we could ever ask for. So everything in my view is absolutely on the right track. Now let's go on the live chart and see what is happening in the short term, because some quite interesting signs are starting to show up. Okay, here we are. And if you remember, the last time that we talked about QNT, we were right around this area. And the idea was that, yes, we are absolutely able to consider a 5-wave up off of this important low down here, about $86. And why do we care about this so much? Because in terms of Elliott's waves, if you want to argue that we're going to have our final around this region, maybe, I don't know, let's say this is like a very important support, then okay, off of the lowest low, you have to be able to find a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave on the upside. This specific structure is called an impulse. Rules for it are, we should not have overlapping of the waves between wave 2 and 4, and in any kind of 5 wave or wave 3 should not be the smallest wave. And in terms of the subwaves, I think you know what I'm about to say. We must be able to find 5 wave up into wave 1, 3, and 5. And for wave 2 and 4, we can have different counts. Let's say, sure, ABC into 4 and like a WXY structure into wave 2. If you are able to find something like this off of the lows in QNT, then okay, that means you should probably be a bit optimistic. Now, here's the thing. Sometimes you can have a correction structure off of the lows in form of a flat structure, and that looks like this. This is our initial move up into a correction for wave B, and in this phase we may either take this initial low, or maybe we're just going to get very, very close to it, and then we're going to have another move up into C. And pay attention, this is important. In terms of the subwaves, we're going to have ABC into A, ABC into B, and guess what? Yup, a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave up, literally something like this, but into our C leg. And this in case that for our wave B, for example, either we are going to get very, very close to the lows, or maybe even preferably we take it. This having a 5 wave is actually going to fool a lot of people into believing that, you know what, maybe we have hit our final low, not necessarily paying attention to the fact that, look, maybe this is an ABC expanded flat, meaning what? We're going to get after it a massive move on the downside. And usually around here, a lot of amateur traders are going to start some long positions, but unfortunately the price does have a tendency to destroy those people. So as a result, you may see a move down in order to hit all those small traders' stop losses. Now, here's a very important point. In case that this is actually an ABC flat and the final low is not in yet, then okay, pay attention, please. This is the key. In this 5 wave on the upside, we should take the height of our A leg. So far, so good. However, we shouldn't really go a whole lot higher. And for example, somewhere around these areas, we can have the end of this 5 wave, and then we must see effective immediately a very strong move down. And by that, I'm talking about a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave without a lot of overlapping of the waves. Now, why do I care about this so much? Because I think it's actually based on this very, very important sign that I'm able to tell you, look, maybe in quant, this isn't actually a 5 wave up into our C leg, completing the subwaves for example, an A, B, C in form of an expanded flat. First things first though, I think the last time that we talked about QNT, we were right around these areas, and the idea was that we can have like a 1, 2, 3, 4, and this move has to continue into wave 5, which is going to be on a higher degree into wave 3, and we have to see correction for 4, another move up into wave 5, and I'm going to say that pretty much happened. But there are some nuance here and there. Now I'm going to say the end of our wave 5 is actually right in here, and this is the end of wave 3, correction for 4, and there's a good chance that this move up is going to continue into our wave 5, and this is actually the main point. You see, if we are going to have another continuation of this phase up into 5, and for example, let's say, I don't know, we're going to reach to about $111, $112. At that point, the distance between the height of our A and the height of our C leg is going to be quite significant, maybe even to a degree is going to roll out the possibility of having an ABC expanded flat, and maybe it is going to suggest, look, in quant, Guess what? We have hit our final low, and this can be, for instance, 5 wave up into a wave 1, correction for wave 2, and what's next? I think you know it, huge move up into wave 3 and 4 and 5. So right now, I think we might be on track for this. However, at the moment, I think it might be just a little bit too soon to be completely optimistic. Why? Well, we just talked about it earlier. Question, what is going to happen after a 5 wave up, even if you want to go according to the most bullish scenario? One way or the other, the answer is we are going to get a move on the downside. I really prefer to our move down in QNT actually start from some higher prices, let's say 110 even potentially, and hopefully for that matter $120. And if that move ends up being a very slow and choppy one, and between our pullbacks up in here, you're just constantly able to identify overlapping of the waves, you know what? That is going to be an awesome sign suggesting, yep, indeed, we have hit our final bottom, and this is a 1-2, which means in terms of technical analysis, we're just looking the best, and we can expect a huge bull run into our wave 3 and 4 and 5. But it's very important to note that this isn't really going to happen in a span of 1 or 2 nights. No, this is going to take weeks, potentially even months. So, you know, let's just take every single thing step by step and see where are we going to go next. For now, let's hope this move is going to continue, preferably to about 110 to even 120 level. And then if we get a move down, it's not necessarily going to be a bad sign at all, especially if you identify a very slow move down. And well, at that point, you can definitely say, look, this is part of the bullish process. And in fact, if we are able to identify all the right subwaves, right in here can be a great long opportunity. Why is it that I didn't say it can be a great buy opportunity? Well, that actually depends on individuals. You see, I actually bought my QNT tokens somewhere around the $60 area, and my average purchase I think is around those numbers, maybe like $60 to $63. And for me, it's a bit tough to say that I'm gonna buy QNT once more around the $105 level. No, at best, I was actually willing to buy more QNT in case that, for example, I think I said it also in the previous video, we get another move down and reach to about this level between $75 to about $80. That was actually the max price that I was willing to add more token to my portfolio. Around these prices, I'll be honest, I'm probably not going to do that. But if you are a new investor, well, first things first, do not listen to me or anybody else in this space. You should do absolutely your own due diligence, come up with your own conclusion, and then if you thought, you know what, this is a good token, okay, fair enough, feel free to watch some YouTube videos and watch some other people's opinion on Twitter. That's absolutely fine. However, you should definitely not say that QNT is a fantastic token just because some random influencer said so. Absolutely not. If you want to do this, I promise you by the end of this cycle, you are going to end up losing quite a good bit of money. So I hope I explained everything well and you understood what is going on in Quant's price chart. Anyway, if you found any value in my content, I would really appreciate if you like this video and consider subscribing to my channel and follow me on Twitter. And if you want more, maybe you want a complete analysis for your own specific crypto, or maybe you want to learn some decent TA in order to be able to make good money in the markets, you can become a member and ask me anything you want. And until the next update, I hope you have a wonderful time with your family and loved ones. Goodbye.